Your source for everything paranormal. Para-X. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural. Magic. Ghosts. UFOs. Bigfoot. Extraterrestrial. Psychic energy.
The Calling.
Hey everybody, it's another there we go, get my microphone down. It's another Wednesday night, and welcome to The Calling, the night before. This would be the Thanksgiving Eve, right?
Right.
Is there anything weird that happens on a Thanksgiving Eve?
No, just that it snowed. That's about it.
Well, that sucks, but I mean, isn't there something paranormal or something like that about Thanksgiving Eve?
Maybe turkeys come back alive or something? I don't know, after it cooks. I don't know.
I'm just kind of looking it up real quick here and just see what kind of things. Thanksgiving Day ghost, your ghost stories. A plea to resurrect the Christmas tradition of telling ghost stories. There really isn't anything. Well, that just blows. I mean, come on, there's got to be, you got the night before Halloween is mischief night.
Right.
That's when the little what's go out and, slice tires and smash windows and all that other fun stuff.
Those little kids do that?
Oh, I hate little kids. I'm sure they do. They sit there and dream about it, It's like Christmas, dancing little sugar plum fairies in their heads, and the night before Halloween, they're thinking of total destruction and total chaos on everybody.
Right.
God, and then Thanksgiving Eve, I'm sure it's, I don't know. Help me make something up. Come on.
I don't know. Well, that's when you get into fights with your relatives over a turkey and Thanksgiving. So I don't know. So
that's true. So now, curiosity. Now you do the dinners, right, for Thanksgiving?
Yes.
For your family?
Do.
Okay.
Yes, we do turkey dinners, not tamales.
That wasn't. It still starts with a T. That's good.
That's right.
But no, that wasn't my question. But my question is how many times have you done it? Have you done the dinners?
Oh, all the time. To be truthful.
All the time. So, rough guesstimate, 100.
I don't know. Am I that? It's once a year for turkey? I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's once a year.
So, 50 years then? No, because I'm too young. So about 30 years, maybe, at the most.
Oh, now you're in your 30s?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, we're telling fairy stories, and you don't think that Bigfoot's not real, No, what I mean is that how many times have you ever had a Griswold turkey?
I've never seen a Griswold turkey.
You've never seen that? Where the all of a sudden the turkey just flops open. It's so dry and it's gasping for air.
Oh, that's right.
Hey, how many times have you had that?
Actually, I never have. I've always had a perfect turkey. To be
really?
I'm not kidding. Yeah. Yeah, and you know what, that's funny? Because a lot of people have problems with turkeys. Either they're frozen still or they cook the giblets in with the turkey and all that stuff. Or
what's a giblet?
Oh Lordy. Have you ever made a turkey, Terry?
I've made a turkey, but what's the giblet? What's a
like
giblet?
Like the giblets that are inside the turkey, you have to pull them out. Are you sure we're talking about a turkey now, Jerry? What are you cooking?
No, we're talking about a turkey, but giblets in a turkey? You're talking about its innards and stuff. Okay,
Yeah, they're in a
paranormal writer.
bag.
The nasty little plastic bag stuff aside frozen turkey.
That's
Easy to
right.
forget. I have
Yes.
never done that. Never forgotten it. You forgot that in there?
No, no, I've never forgotten it. I've never had that, but people do tend to forget about it. So who's to say? I mean, I've never done it. So
Dave says, I just walked into it. How many times have you done it and thought I'd hit the wrong show? That's hilarious. No, Dave, you're at the correct show. We're just kind of going a little wacky here. No, because I just giblets go inside the dressing. Okay.
mhm.
Okay. Well, I always thought the giblets were like the junk you're not supposed to have. You know,
Really?
you just that's what
Yeah.
I always thought it was.
Well,
And why
some
would they put a little
people
bag inside there for?
no, because
Like a
they
little
they go in
colostomy
the little
bag?
bit. No, oh gosh, Jerry, no. It's so gross. Have you really cooked a turkey, Jerry?
Yes, I have.
They're in there. They're in
Okay.
there. I'm
I
not
guess
kidding.
maybe Steph could grab them out before I had a chance to see it, so I didn't freak. Have you seen some of those videos out there where, the parents are telling the kids
Oh
they got to
yeah.
take care of the turkey, so then they put a little rock Cornish game hen inside there, and the kids reach in there like, oh my God, there's a baby in there. It's like,
I think those
okay.
are hilarious.
Oh, good God. Okay, so tonight's guest is, paranormal writer. Ralph, you there, buddy?
I'm here. Can you hear me, Jerry?
Yes, I can.
Awesome.
I was going to fake it and say, no, I can't. But
Don't do that.
still,
It's been a day.
but I didn't do it. Darn it. So, how you doing?
Good, thank you. How are
Good.
you?
Not too bad, not too bad. So, yeah, our little giblet thing. So I guess I never knew. I always remember seeing the little bag of yuck, but I never knew the
Yes.
neck's actually in that bag too.
You know
Yes.
what? Yeah, it's just nasty. And if you forget it, then it leaves this funk. You think, well, it must have been food safe. That's what I always tell myself. It must have been food safe. They couldn't have just stuffed it in there and not had a food safe thing, because I cooked the heck out of it. I mean, it's
Yeah, I
in
do too.
hours. It's horrible.
So that's got the little gizzard in there too and stuff.
Yeah, the heart and the weird.
Oh, geez,
The
Louise.
dog's treats, I'm telling you. That's
They're
the
Dog
dog's treats.
treats. That's very
Oh, it's
cute.
also
The
cat
turkey's
food too.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I guess. Wow, I'm just like shocked. Okay, I'm thoroughly grossed out now. So, yeah, that's why I just
I
have
don't
to.
know. I have to question about you cooking a turkey then because they're in there.
Well, no, I would have to say that Steph did a lot of it, But Stashu's, when I worked at Stashu's Bar in Northeast Minneapolis, that every Thanksgiving I worked it with another server, and so I always cooked a turkey and
Mhm.
brought the turkey there, and then we always had one of the homeless guys wash his hands really good and put on gloves and actually cut it up and everything. That was their dinner. I mean, it was everybody got to
Nice.
really go for it. One year we didn't do it, and oh man, we heard, you guys are cheap. Y'all are
Oh.
cheap around here. So it's like, okay, that's it. We're gonna keep doing it with the mashed potatoes, the gravy, the corn, all that stuff. We used to do up a good thing, and pie, of course. But you'd only get a sliver. You wouldn't get a whole piece.
That's
That we got cheap.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, okay. So now, writer, out of curiosity, or should I call you writer or Ralph?
Ralph, whatever you like, honestly, it's
Okay.
fine. Yep.
Ralphie boy? Okay.
No, not that.
Not that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
God.
could sit in it and say, like, oh God, Jerry.
Seriously, like I grew up listening to the Moon, Alice, and all
Oh,
these
my.
like
Oh,
references.
no.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure.
Yep.
Did you ever own a BB gun when you were a kid?
I did actually.
Oh.
I bought it and then I gave it away for a birthday present because my mom said we couldn't have it. So I put it back in the box. We gave it to Jeff. I won't say his last name. for his, I think it was his 13th birthday, and he spent the entire birthday shooting at us with the BB gun that we got him. We ran from him we kept screaming at him, Jeff, you're going to hit us in the eye. He didn't care. He just came at us with that thing. Oh, it was a bad idea. So do not arm your friends at 13, I guess.
Oh, no, you never do. Oh, my God. No, I remember when we got Casey she wanted a BB gun. And I'm pretty sure she just used to open up the window a little bit in her bedroom and just shoot things outside at any hour of the night or day. It was like hilarious.
That's awesome.
But kids got to have one.
For
So
sure.
let's see. Okay, so now what is your belief in the paranormal? Obviously, you do have a belief in UFOs, correct?
I do very much. I have encountered them, and I think we're going to talk about that later, from my understanding. But yeah, I'm all things paranormal. I very much I've had ghostly experiences, and I think I've even had unknowingly cryptid experiences. I used to hike the Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania. I used to live in Pennsylvania for a long time, and I would hike it alone and just go out, and it was kind of my wilderness meditation. And I'd come across those tree structure things that I didn't know they were associated with Bigfoot at the time, but I just thought, wow, that's curious. Look how they all fell in that, that formation. What are the odds of that? And then you see another one, and okay, maybe that's on purpose. Well, why would people build that? And so, I didn't know that it was actually a Bigfoot thing at the time. I was just running into him in the woods. I wish I had known.
Oh yeah, no kidding. I mean, that would be pretty cool, So what's your is it this belief from when you were a kid?
Well, the UFO thing, I think from when I was a kid, but probably the paranormal thing really in earnest kicked off when I was. We were living in a house in Chanhassen. My ex and I had bought this house in Chanhassen, just west of the cities, and it was haunted as hell. I mean, I don't know a better way to put it. It was just creepy haunted. I was within the first 6 months, just so many things happened that it was hard for me to believe that there was not such a thing as ghosts or, spirits or poltergeist or whatever was actually taking place there. Our neighbor Tim was actually a retired sheriff, and I remember the spring after we moved in, I saw him out. He was setting up his barbecue, and I said, Tim, mind if I ask you a question? Just what's has anyone, the previous guys, owners of this house, ever said anything about weird noises or stuff opening and closing by itself? And he just got this biggest grin on his face. He's like, come over for a beer. We're going to talk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he actually said that every house up and down that side of our block, it was a circle, had funky stuff going on. And his kids, to that day, even though they were grown up out of the house, would not come down into the basement. They refused to enter his basement. So yeah, it was just a crazy place. Lots of activity. I saw a full body apparition there. Looking back at the house, it was night, and I looked up, and in my master bedroom window, there was a young girl in pigtails, with a white kind of, I don't want to say Victorian because it wasn't that. It was more like what you would put on a little kid for a church, that kind of dress.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of lacy, frilly a little bit, and that kind of thing. So almost like a baptismal dress or something. And my girlfriend, after this is post divorce separation, my girlfriend actually came over, now wife, came over, and we were eating dinner, and those push button spinny dimmer switches. We were sitting there eating dinner, and we watched the dimmer just spin itself all the way dim. It was like full on crazy stuff like that. We'd be in the bedroom, and the door would just open on its own, and Samantha would look at me and say, the door just opened. I'd say, well, it's just the wind. Well, there are no windows open. and then the door would close again. She's like, "Is that the wind too?" I mean, it was just,
Oh, so you didn't tell her. You didn't warn her
oh
then
no,
about it.
yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, it was just beyond crazy. So that was probably my most big introduction into the paranormal. And at the time I was a firefighter too, and paramedic, and so I had a couple of experiences in that too. And obviously, you see a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily want to bring home with you or see, but sometimes stuff would follow me home, and it was not. It was obvious that that's what it was from. So,
Right.
without getting into the details of things, but yeah, so that was paranormal side of things. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in the cryptid side, though. I love to go out squatching and see more of what's out there in the woods. Now that I know what I'm looking for a little bit.
Wow. Well, next week, as a matter of fact, everybody, just to let you guys know that Squatchers will be on the show next week, where you got a couple of the girls from way up north that are going to be calling in to talk about it and stuff. Okay, so you now, all right. So Kim, well, we were talking a little bit before the show about a gobble squatch. I heard it
Oh
on
yeah.
the gathering last night. I have never heard of such a thing, and just I mean, see, this is where it gets a little crazy, especially like when the 35W bridge went down, and then all these years later, people are saying, "Oh, I seen the Mothman in
Oh,
town
that's right.
weeks before it happened." It's like, give me
Really?
a break. Oh my
Yeah, we
God, you wait
talked
this
about
long
that.
yeah, I just don't. I mean, I do believe in the Mothman, but I don't believe that it was ever seen around. Why would it take this long before somebody starts talking about it?
Hmm.
Because I mean, I looked through everything I could around that time and everything, and not one person ever said that they seen it,
Right.
in all that time. So,
Hmm.
yeah. So that's interesting. So, okay, so now you've seen ghosts, now you've seen UFOs.
I have.
Now, okay, tell us about what happened that time when you were flying your plane.
Okay, so I actually love flying. I think it's crazy cool. And so at the time, I was racking up hours. I had gotten my private pilot's license, and that's kind of your first step into being able to fly on your own. And the next step is instrument rating. And for your instrument, you have to have a certain number of cross-country hours. And so I was racking up as many cross-country hours as I could. A friend of mine, Dave, called me up and said, "You got to get me to southern West Virginia. I've got to get there, and I've got a client who this." And I had flown him and his wife around before, and so he knew I could fly. And he said, "I'll pick up all the gas costs and the cost of rental." I said, "Wow, done deal. When do you want to go?" So he and I took off. It was a pretty bumpy day. We actually ended up stopping in Charleston on the way down because he wasn't feeling very well because of how windy and bumpy it was. And when you're in a small plane, two-seater. It was my all-time favorite airplane, 7 Tango Pop. I love that airplane. But it's a two-seater, and so you feel every bump. I mean, you're basically like a little moth, and when it's breezy, you got your wings strapped on, and you feel every single bump. And so we were flying down, and we finally got there, and turned around. And he said, "You know what? I'm going to be here, and I just can't do the bumps. I can't do it. I'm just going to have my wife Jackie come pick me up." I said, "Oh, that's fine." He said, "But I cover your expenses. It's totally fine. Just go back on your own." And so I'm like, "Okay." So I did this 2-person flight down, dropped him off at the airport that he had chosen, and we're flying back. And I was flying out of Allegheny County Airport in just southeast of Pittsburgh, and that was the home base for the aircraft. And so I'm flying back probably about after the sunset. The irony of this is, as soon as the sun set, the wind completely calmed down, and it was like glass. I mean, it was like flying on ball bearings. It was so smooth, and it was wonderful. And I actually had a really nice flight back. And I'm about 4,500 feet above ground level, flying northwest, heading back into Allegheny County. But I haven't quite crossed the Pennsylvania border, so I'm over northern West Virginia, heading in that general direction. And it was after dark, and single engine at night is what it kind of gives you a little pucker factor, because you have one engine, and looking down, you can't really make out very many landmarks over northern West Virginia. I could see the occasional farmhouse light or country house light, but other than that, it's just pitch black, and there's a sea of trees down there, and hills and whatnot. But there's a little pucker factor with it, so I was on a high alert, and off my nose.
What time was this? What time was it at?
Boy, it was late fall. So if I had to guess, I would say probably 7:38, maybe thereabouts, maybe 8:30. There, it was well after dark. I don't remember much of a moon, so it was a dark night. And I'm flying back, and all of a sudden I see this light off my nose, and it kind of dims into view, which to me, I took it as, okay, an airplane has now turned and is heading towards me, because I'm assuming it's another aircraft. And when you're learning to fly, they teach you, tricks of the trade, and one of them at night is determining whether or not an aircraft is going to pass over you or below you. And if it's going to pass over you, the light slowly will move up your windshield relative to where it started. And if it's going to, if it's going the opposite direction, it's going to pass below you. Well, this thing was dead center in the windshield, and it was just getting brighter. And so I thought, wow, so here's an aircraft at my relative altitude, and it's obviously heading towards me. So I lit up my airplane as much as I could. 7 Tango Pop was a Sparrowhawk edition of a 152, so it's actually got a few extra horsepower, and this one had strobes and landing light and taxi lights. So I put everything on that I could. And tried to get the attention of the opposite pilot. Just wanted to make sure that they could see me and, see and avoid. And still nothing. It just kept getting bigger and brighter on my windshield. And so I thought, well, okay, I'm going to slowly bank left and right, and then carry on a slow right bank. I was kind of annoyed because I was tracking a nice VOR line back into Allegheny VHF Omni range. It's basically like a radio signal that helps you navigate a straight line when you are not able to make out landmarks below you. And so I'm tracking that line, kind of annoyed that I have to turn. And in flying, as in navigating on the sea, whenever two crafts are approaching each other, you're both pilots in command or captains are taught you both turn to the right to avoid collision. So there's just that built-in instinct to turn to the right. So I wiggled my wings a little bit, and I kind of started banking to the right. And I mean, I don't know how to better describe it. It just got really dim and then kind of bright for a second, and within a quarter second, that dot flew straight up into outer space. I mean, it was gone. Gone. And so it really dim, really bright, and then boom. And I'm freaked out. I'm like, I'd never seen that before, and I certainly didn't want to be alone in the sky with whatever the heck that was. And so I thought, okay, well, that's not comforting.
Right.
So I looked up. I had a typically whenever I fly, I always prepare a list of frequencies, and so I looked up my crib sheet for the frequencies that are relative to my landing and departure points, and Greater Pittsburgh Approach Control was on that list. So I called up Greater Pittsburgh Approach, and these guys don't have to talk to me. They are the ones who manage the jumbo jets, and so they said, hey, 7 Tango Pop, and what do you need? Basically, I said, well, I'd like to request flight following, workload permitting, which was my nice way of saying, I understand you're busy, but please pay attention to me. And so they give you a squawk code, which is a unique 4-digit code that you basically dial in, and it blips up on their radar, so they can positively identify your aircraft versus all the other dots on their radar. So they told me to squawk a code. I squawked it. I identified, and they said, okay, flight following approved. Where are you tracking to? I told them, and they followed me. And the second they said approved, I said, Greater Pittsburgh Approach, do you have anything off my 12 o'clock? Any traffic? I thought I saw something. Nope, nothing. Got nothing there. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm not going to, not going to tell him, hey, I think there might be little green men out there. Yeah, but yeah. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was totally nuts. Yeah, it wasn't quite life flashing before my eyes, but yeah, it was very freaky. And although I've had the life flashing before your eyes too, that's a whole nother story. Which is, it's a weird experience when it does happen. But the flight back into Greater Pittsburgh or to Allegheny County was uneventful. Pittsburgh Approach followed me the whole way. There was no other issues, and that was that. So I landed, and I actually called my flight instructor at the time, Bob, and I wanted to tell him, Bob, this is what I seen. Who do I talk to? Do I go up to the control tower? Do I file a report? He's like, just forget it. Don't say anything to anyone. And so I was warned, for what it's worth, that if you actually say something, you might jeopardize your career, future would-be career as a pilot. And I didn't know if I was going to do that commercially or not. And I actually really wanted to be an Alaska bush pilot. That was my goal, but then diapers happened, and then I had to choose avgas, diapers, avgas, diapers. And so,
yeah, that'll do it right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, we're going to go on break. When we come back, I got a little surprise for Ryder. So we'll be right back in like 2 minutes.
Your source for everything paranormal.
UFOs are found in Renaissance art, on ancient coins, and etched on cave walls. They are even reported in the Bible. But more surprising is when UFOs are seen the most, in times of war. Through centuries, thousands of UFO sightings have been made by high-ranking officials, military pilots, and ordinary soldiers. Often, these fantastic appearances occur at the height of great battles. From World War I to D-Day, to Korea, Vietnam, and beyond, military investigators are baffled. Why do UFO sightings spike so drastically during wartime? Could it be mistaken aircraft, or is someone, or something, looking in on us? In UFOs in Wartime, What They Didn't Want You to Know, Mac Maloney chronicles centuries of these incredible sightings and tries to solve the puzzle of why so many UFOs are seen while humanity is at war. Read about the scare ships, the ghost planes, and the ghost rockets, alien giants in the jungles of Vietnam, UFOs controlling our ICBM bases, dogfights with flying saucers during the Gulf War, and more. 300 pages of unbelievable stories, along with many startling photographs. That's UFOs in Wartime, What They Didn't Want You to Know, by Mac Maloney. On sale at your local bookstore or on Amazon.com.
It is the secret of the world that all things subsist and do not die, but only retire a little from sight and afterwards return again. Nothing is dead. People find themselves dead and endure the mock funerals and mournful obituaries. And there they stand, looking out the window, sound and well, in some new and strange disguise. This secret must be told to the world, and they must tell it. because they're not dead. We know this, and we'll prove it. So join Mike and Dave every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central for the Odyssey Files. Only on Parax.
All right, we are back. This is Jerry with the calling. And it's big Thanksgiving tomorrow. Now, if a lot of people aren't listening and you don't want to miss the show tonight, best thing you can do is by tomorrow evening, this show will be on our website, www.thecallingradioshow.com. We have a list of all the archived shows. If there's a show that you were thinking about or something you'd like to hear again from so many years back, even longer than what we have listed there and everything, definitely let me know. Give me an email and I'll find the show and I'll send it to you. And also too, you guys probably noticed that Alan's not here tonight. His wife said, no, you're cooking dinner. So that's it. He's got to get everything going. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure she cracks that whip. And boy, oh boy, I tell you. So, and then also too, every Tuesday night, remember to listen to The Gathering. The ladies of The Gathering, Stephanie and Heidi, sit around that metaphysical table and they have themselves a blast. Last night's show was really good. They're the ones that gave me the idea about the gobble squatch. Weird. So listen to them. They're at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time and 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, only on this channel, parax.com. So, okay, we're back. And so now, Ryder, with all this going on and everything, you gave me an idea, and I decided to follow up on this idea. So I got a hold of MUFON. I first went through the websites and tried to find anything that happened in 1993 it was November 20th, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I went through everything. Now I found a bunch that happened in West Virginia, but they were earlier and stuff. So I asked them, is it possible it's just not listed on the site? The guy was nice enough to do some research and actually got back to me the next day and said yes. What? At approximately 8:30 that night, that there was 3 other people on the ground that witnessed a
Are you
something.
kidding me?
No, it was flying across the sky, and then they noticed a small plane. They watched them, and then there was
Jerry!
there was two UFOs that night. One had split off and went the other direction, went towards the east, while the other one must have been, and I can only think that that's you, though there's other planes around, but at that specific place, at that specific time is when it happened. And then that light, they said, pulsated. So could that have been the waggling you were talking about? Waggling
Maybe.
and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it was getting dimmer. It dimmed out into brightness, and then it dimmed and brightened, and then it shot up.
Yep, that's roughly what they were saying. And then it shot, and then it was gone. While the other one stayed on course for a little bit, but then that also, too, just like it hit hyperspeed and was completely gone. So, yes, there was 3 witnesses to that scene, that UFO that night. So, I mean, can I say it was you? I can't say positive that it's you, but when they gave me the report on that 3 people claimed they had put it in and everything else. And they said that they actually watched it for 15 minutes. How long did this happen with you?
Honestly, I have no idea. It didn't. I couldn't say 15 minutes, but alone in a cockpit at night, I don't know. Time's a relative thing. I would think it was probably, from my experience, from looking back on it, I would say the whole thing was like done in less than 10 minutes, maybe.
Wow.
But that was, and I didn't see a second craft, but honestly, the one that had my attention was the one that I thought was tracking directly at me. So, I didn't notice another one, but wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's when he told me that, when he emailed, I have the email, so I can I can forward that to you and everything.
Please.
It was
Yeah.
just amazing to see that on
Ooh.
that it did happen.
That's
Nice job,
vindication.
Jerry.
What's
Nice
That's
that?
awesome.
job. Nice
That's-
job.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
great.
yeah. Well, it was, it's like this is what I dreamed of having somebody on. I always wanted a pilot on. Doesn't matter if it's a big old jet airliner or just a little old, nuts and bolts thing, which you would never catch me in because I don't think it could ever get off the ground.
Jerry, we got to go flying together now. You know that, right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
You guys could see some light.
It would have to be, I don't even know, I mean, when it comes to flying, I'm not I'm a baby. I'm definitely a baby when it comes to flying. But anyway, so yeah, this was, to me, was like the coolest thing. That's why I wanted to tell you, but I wouldn't tell you. He was like, no, come on, dude, you got to tell me what's going on.
Yeah, that's totally wild. I never thought you'd find anything because I just, it was for me like it was just a personal thing, but that's so cool.
Well, it was so cool is that if you look online and everything, you can see a lot of stuff that's listed by MUFON.
Yep.
And, but if you get a hold of someone, they're able to track down exactly at that time because it may not be on the website. So this right here, and I asked him, I said, can you update the website? And he's like, well, it takes a lot of work, but, they suppose that he could just send it on and hope that someone will take care of it.
That's cool.
So, yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Wow.
So let's go. We got some questions here. Okay, that's a little different off there. Kimberly, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Go ahead, Jerry, because I was looking at the questions too. So if I don't see
Oh,
you.
you can. Okay.
I think
see-
Steve was asking about the Chanhassen house.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. He said, do you think the haunted area in Chanhassen maybe was on Indian burial grounds?
So I'll tell you the other part of this. What Tim said, our neighbor, the retired sheriff, he said that he's been around a lot of death in his career, and he said he kind of knows the smell of it. And when they first moved in, they dug out a pool, and actually both my girls would go and jump in Tim's pool because he kind of let them have at it. But he said when they first dug the ground out, he said it smelled like death. And I asked him, well, were there bones or anything that came? He's like, nope, no bones, but it smelled like that smell. And so, to the question of Indian burial ground, I don't know if it was that or if there was just a really big battle or something that took place there and rotting, whatever underneath. I don't know, but yeah, there was definitely something there, and it was just crazy stuff.
Wow. So we're going to go back to UFOs here for a second.
Okay.
It's awful funny because you had said, what is their policy on that? When you were training and stuff like that, did they ever say anything about, you just don't tell anybody if you've seen anything like that?
Well, I from what Bob told me, he said if you ask or you insist on like pulling radar or you make a big deal out of it, you will get people asking about your mental well-being. And he kind of made it sound like they're going to declare you unfit to fly because, here's a whack job who thinks he's seeing, something out of this world. And so, or they'd probably write it off as a weather balloon. That was the other thing he said. And I've personally seen weather balloons flying, and so I know it wasn't a weather balloon.
Have you been close to a weather balloon?
Yeah, well, Altoona is a big weather station in Pennsylvania. You can actually, as pilots, you get to go visit these weather reporting stations and stuff. They open their door, and they encourage pilots to go because they want you to understand their products and how they do weather and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I visited a couple, seen how they do their thing, and definitely, whether a balloon is a balloon, you're not going to mistake a balloon for, even though it might be shiny and it tall and it might go up pretty quick. It's definitely a balloon.
Right, but I mean, okay, so it wasn't something like you were flying, then all of a sudden, oh dang, that's a balloon.
Oh no,
You know,
no.
okay,
Yeah.
that would really suck. One engine, boom, you hit a balloon, you're pretty much screwed. That's it. That's the end of it.
I think you're just freaking out about the small aircraft thing still.
Well, I couldn't do it. There's no possible way. I don't think the only smallest engine was a DC-9, and still had the propellers when I went into service, and we flew from Minneapolis down to Fort McClellan, Alabama.
DC-9 or DC-3?
Maybe it was a DC-3. Yeah, DC-3.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, DC-3, because that had the propellers.
Yep.
The DC-9 didn't have the propellers. My bad. And it was like horrific. It was the worst thing. You could actually see the wings flap. You could see sparks shooting out of the engine. And I just remember looking over there and just like horrified when the guy next to me comes and whispers and said, just want to know that, let you know we're going to be dying here any moment.
Oh my gosh.
All right, really? You know, geez, you know, that I'm looking for, is there any kind of parachutes around or something, you know? It was terrible. But anyway, when we were talking about the UFOs and them telling you pretty much don't talk about it.
Yeah, that's what he said, and I believed him, so I wanted to keep my license. And
oh, yeah. When I was a kid growing up in Bemidji, Minnesota, at Lake Mulville, there was a sighting there. It was more than a sighting. The woman that lived on the lake, her son was my mother's boss. And one day on a Sunday, she woke up, she had her coffee, it had just freshly snowed, it was in the middle of winter time, and she looked up and she seen the lake start to bubble in a perfect circle. And then this ship came out, and legs came down, and she totally freaked out from that. She just was like, wow. So she called the police, she called the sheriff, and the sheriff said, okay, we'll be right out. So the sheriff himself, along with the brand new deputy sheriff, and as they're approaching less than a few blocks away, this thing takes off and flies. And the deputy sheriff, his last name was Sims, looked at this sheriff and said, how do we write this up? He said, you didn't see nothing. You didn't see nothing whatsoever. He said, no, your job will end. You didn't see nothing. So then they called it in, and it was like a few days later or something like that. There was a bunch of of the men in black, roughly you could call them, showed up, and they were taking all sorts of readings, Geiger counters. They were following tracks that went into the woods, and they went in for at least, what they say, it was like 1,000 feet or something, or maybe something like that. And they said that then all of a sudden the tracks stopped.
Tracks is in like alien tracks?
Tracks, but they called them man tracks, and the man tracks just stopped in the middle of the woods.
Wow.
Nothing then. There was nothing left.
Wow.
And they couldn't tell if it was boots or anything else and stuff. So that was in 1970-ish, 71. And in 1985, the same thing happened on Star Island in Cass Lake. And it was, they went out there, they checked it out, and again, they found the man tracks, and they followed it for about 1,000 feet, and then they stopped. And I have the manuscript on that, the interview log on that, the original one. And it's just amazing. Maybe I'll let you take a look at it one of these times. You'll read through it, and you're going to be like, oh my God,
That's cool.
That is so cool. But it's funny is that the lady, when the Men in Black came, she took pictures. She took a bunch of photos, and when they had left, they returned and wanted any pictures that anybody took. And she said, well, I took these, that's it. But she had 3 photos that were left. And she gave my mother one, or gave her son one to give to my mother, because I was big into it. We got to go out there and visit her house and everything else. I mean, she had a total perfect view of the lake. She was less than, gosh, maybe 50, 60 feet from the lake. So she had perfect view of it. And the photos were just right on. They were out there. You can see it was perfectly round and everything. But I did a big mistake, and my mom did too. Mom helped me find what we thought was the Project Blue Book address. And so we took that address, we put everything in a packet along with that photo and some clippings from Bemidji Pioneer newspaper and everything, of ones that they had on front page, which they actually caught, and a couple of them I did see. But anyway, so we sent that. And it was quite a long time later, 6 months, maybe more, we got the envelope back. And it, of course, was, written on there, no such department, no such zone, all this other stuff. We opened it up, and those photos were missing. That photo and all the clippings were missing.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, to me, that was the only time that my mom said she was afraid of our government, because they were actually hushing us. So it was quite amazing. It was like I'm saying right now, a lot of people do believe that there is a connection between Bigfoot and UFOs. Now, we did ask Lauren Coleman about that, and he just looked, Alan asked him that, and he looked at Alan, and he looked over at me like, where did you get this guy? And he says, next question. Because a lot of people, they don't believe that they have anything to do with each other. It just so happens, like the natives believe, and I believe too, that Bigfoot is interdimensional, that he can travel. He's part of the little people. Where when it comes to the star people, they're totally different. I mean, UFOs have been around for a long time, but I can't say that there's little aliens in them. I can't say that. I've never seen anything. Other people say they have. Are they green? Are they gray? Nobody really knows. And my belief is that, looking at how a UFO banks and everything else, I believe that they are drones. Even way back in those days, they're drones that are sent from wherever these guys live, that come down to check out, take pictures, video,
You lost me on the drone thing. I have to believe.
A lot of people believe that they're just drones. They're unmanned vehicles brought in. Yeah.
But here's the thing. Even I mean, you're assuming that the laws of aerodynamics, inertia, momentum, coefficient of friction, all that stuff applies to those craft. And I don't think they move through space. I think they move space around where they happen to be. And so I think they bend space around where their physical position is. And so the laws that we know of aerodynamics don't necessarily apply to them. That's my personal belief. I got you on the drone side of it, but there's so much intelligence to what these things do. I don't know. To me, I think there's little green men in there.
There could
whatever.
be.
Yeah.
There could be, definitely could be. And here's another thing too. I mean, there's different groups of people around this world. And when it comes, who doesn't say that there's different groups of aliens? Already they've got it mapped out. I wish I could find that article that the space is marked out in 4 different quadrants. And different colors mean different things. So if you see a UFO that's flashing red or one that's flashing yellow, they're from different areas.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
this is what they're claiming. So it's so cool to think about that, because maybe some do have just manned ones. Maybe some don't. Maybe they are, bending time and space and everything else. There's just so much. And the thing is, we're in this lifetime right now where we all sit back and say, God, what if they are? What if they are? But we're never going to know.
Yeah.
Maybe our children's children in time will know,
Right. Absolutely.
but
And
we're pretty much, we suck. We're old.
well, not only that, my daughter, when she was 5, we were experiencing alien stuff, since I was younger.
Oh, really?
And then my daughter said that she had a nightmare, but when she woke up, she saw gray. She called them grays.
Oh.
That's what she was set to call them. And I think she was only 5 or 6. She called them grays and never knew anything about aliens.
Wow.
She didn't know
that's
anything
right.
about them. Remember I told you
remember
that, Jerry?
You told me about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'll be darned.
she
Okay,
saw them.
we've got some, we've only got 6 minutes left.
Oh my gosh, that was fast.
I know, went way too fast. This one should have been a 2-hour show. Let's see here. We got Shauna. What's up, Jerry? No, that's not it. I believe in UFOs. I believe that there is something to do with UFOs, lights, and Bigfoot. Yeah, that the lights and stuff like that could possibly be.
Right.
I just don't know about that. It's just a personal thing. I would have never sent the real stuff in. Shauna saying exactly.
Yeah.
I was a little kid at that time, way before you were born, Shauna. You were stupid back in those days. A week or 2 at least. Would you believe the whole Area 51 thing? I do. What about you?
Yeah.
I 100% do. Yeah.
Yes,
100%.
most definitely.
Yep.
Steve's saying, I think Coleman knows about Bigfoot and UFOs are real, but he denies that. Probably told some higher up to deny it. Geez, I don't know about that. Lauren's very big on transparency, of letting everything out. They're saying there are many races. Exactly. That's what I think too. We can't be, I'm sure that they're way different. There may be grays, there may be greens. You never know. There might be some pink ones with polka dots.
Well, there was
I think I've had an experience too that I've seen a ship as well. So.
Oh, really?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. So.
Do you want to tell it in 5 minutes?
I can't. I can't. That's just it. It's a. So I think something's out there. There's something out there. So I truly believe what you're saying about your life.
Yeah. And Steve, you're right. The tall whites are interesting. I did read about the tall whites, which I thought was just incredible. Sherry, the Jabba the Hutt species is the weirdest. Yeah, about that.
Jabba the Hutt for sure. Yoda's awesome, though.
Oh, yeah, the Yoda. Just think a little bit of Yoda guys come running around and stuff like that.
I'd be like, come in for coffee, guys. Let's just talk, because I'd love
I know, right?
that force stuff going. That'd be great.
Next thing you know, they would say to you, beer you have?
Beer you have? Corona have I?
Let's see. Jamie says, I seen a weird green glowing light when driving to Iowa in 2 seconds, and it was gone. No explanation. Wow. It's funny. I'm driving down to Iowa, right around the Pasta Barilla plant. There was a lot of people were saying that they had seen stuff. I don't remember how many years ago this was, but I just remember thinking it was so funny because Stephanie's uncle used to always say that the only thing to make pasta with is pasta barilla. So when you go past the pasta barilla plant, you must pay homage to the noodle gods for this, which I always thought was really funny. But I mean, it's the only kind of noodles I get. So yeah, I could definitely see that. Circular like spaceship or something. AIM, Jesse Marcel, Area 51. Not for sure who Jesse is. Do you guys know?
I don't.
No.
On the whole species thing, though, I was going to say I remember seeing. I don't know how old it is, but there was like a actual interview or some kind of testimony from a Canadian. I want to say it was like the Minister of Defense or former Minister of Defense or something, and he goes into like all the details of how the governments are working with the, the different species, and there's this species and that species, and I mean, the information's out there. Obviously, Channel 4 didn't pick it up, but there's a lot of stuff like that out there. Military was at the crash. Yeah, so Dave knows about it.
Okay, yeah, no, okay, I know who he's talking about now. Yeah, I mean, that's a funny thing, is that when the crash happened and stuff like that, why do they have to keep stuff like that, quiet?
Right.
Why can't they tweet about it like that one guy?
Yep.
Get all the tweets out. That's
The one guy.
The one guy. I don't like to say his name. I just feel like I have to take a shower when I do. Yes, there was an alien that was buried in a cemetery somewhere. Interesting.
Oh.
I believe Hyson is still alive. Cool.
Oh, the son of the.
Oh, his son.
Very guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that would be interesting to get him on the show. Pretty cool. All right, guys. Well, this is it. This is the end of our hour. What a show. Thank you so much there, Ralph, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
That was
really
fun.
good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, Ralph is usually in the chat room every week, guys. So if you guys ever want to talk to him, send him a message. He'd love it. And thank you all very much. Thank you, Kimberly. And thank you again, Ralph. And everybody have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you, Para X. And Sarge, you're the bomb diggity of all bomb diggities. And everybody hang on, because Geeks Paranormal is up next. Happy Thanksgiving. Good night, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.